Okay, well, Jay Baba, thanks for everyone for coming. Thanks to LA for having me again. And we're on the second day of the program on the art of praise as a path to God, focusing on Francis Brabazon's poetry. Francis having been the resident poet, Mandali, who lived with Baba from 1959 to 1969. And a lot of his, of course, being Mandali was its own job, its own assignment. But while his stay there, he composed much poetry, which he read for Baba with regularity during his 10 years there. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, I'm thinking to depart from the description I had originally given that might be on the website, which this morning, I think maybe we could start with reading a few more of these ghazals, because I feel like we didn't quite do it justice yesterday. And then the rest of the session on another book of Francis's, The Word at World's End. By the way, just to bring to mind his body of work, this is The Word at World's End. It was for sale there. Did they get sold out or something? I didn't see any this morning. There were 3 copies yesterday. But of course, Stay with God is his great masterpiece, which is available in this new 4th edition. In Dust I Sing is where we'll be reading most of the ghazals from this morning. These were ghazals that he composed in 1960s and would read out from Baba. Baba, would ask him to write a batch more, and he would read them out for Baba personally at Meherzad and at Guru Prasad. Another book, mostly of ghazals, that was published in 1988 is The Beloved is All in All. I don't think that's here. I don't think you have them here at the moment. They have them in Australia. Another noteworthy book of his, which we read from yesterday some, is The East-West Gathering. It's a poetic account that Francis composed, published in 1963, giving his own highly poetic, imaginative narrative account of that event, the East-West Gathering, in November of 1962. But it's much more than a mere chronicle, as we saw some of yesterday. He has a couple of other books, like The Singing Threshold is a bunch of plays that he wrote. I don't think you have that here. Let Us the People Sing, that's another group of songs that he wrote. And there's, what is it called? He has a poetic, and also you do have this too. The Golden Book of Praise, which is a compilation of the songs that he wrote. I think Sam Saunders had a big role, so it's in musical notation for any of you who would like to be able to read musical notation and like to know how the songs are to be sung. He, as I mentioned yesterday, as best I know, Francis was the first Westerner to start writing songs to Baba in a significant way. I mean, now we're used to it. There have been so many, hundreds, thousands of songs. But in India, there were many songs being written in the Indian languages, particularly Madhusudan and various others. But in English, not much. So he kind of broke the ice in that respect. Began writing songs. He didn't have much of a singing voice, but he would sing them for Baba anyway. He wrote some of the tunes, or he would get folk tunes or various other places and write songs to them. So that's some of his work. So let's look at a couple more of these ghazals. Let me see. From In Dust I Sing. Here's a real lover. Once again, chime in, with your interpretations and whatever as you may like. I have to put on my other glasses to see what's up there. Okay. So once again, we have the dawn, which is a dominant theme and symbol in these ghazals. When dawn tended her rose garden in the eastern sky, I passed along Love Street and heard a distraught one sigh. What is Love Street, by the way? Is that one of the lanes at Marisod? Yeah, it's a sort of a symbol for the beloved lives on it, and the street in front of his door, at his threshold. And it's full of dust. Why would it be full of dust, do you suppose? You get ground down to dust. That's the condition that one aspires to. So you're in the dust and you're hoping the door will open and the beloved will come up and whisk your dust up into the air. It's throughout In Dust I Sing that he uses this figure everywhere. So he's hearing here a distraught lover complaining in Love Street. So that's the rest of this ghazal. It says, though your house is in this street, I am far from your door, for my tears have become an ocean that has no shore. You see the paradox? He's right in the street of the beloved, and the door is right there, but it's so far away because that blasted beloved won't come out and greet him. And also, he's separated from the door by an ocean, right? Suddenly there's an ocean there. So he's mixed these two metaphors, and that he's going to use those throughout this ghazal. What strange tune is this, beloved? In what mood and mode that brings your lover to you and puts between a flood? Do you see the continuity of the metaphor there? We saw, how did flood appear in the previous couplet? Yeah. There's an ocean between them, and so the lover is complaining. What kind of strange, she's characterizing beloved's activity in terms of musical composition with moods and modes. Now, I guess this is still the lover complaining, or maybe it's Francis taking over. I'm not sure about the rest of the ghazal. The moon rose and shone over the wine cup's lip. What is the wine cup's lip doing there anyway? Huh? It's very Hafezian, yeah. To interpret the metaphor on a literal level, it's the horizon line, right? So we have dawn is right before the sunrise. Now the sun has come up. But why would this be a wine cup? The wine cup is apparently the entire environment that he's in. Why would that be a wine cup? It's lover's lane, yeah. And the wine gets poured there, even though it's all full of dust, and even though Baba is heartlessly not appearing, it remains a wine cup. So the sun rises over the wine cup's lip. She's developing this system of metaphors again. Does Hafez use the wine cup's lip and things like that? Yeah. I mean, Francis was hearing Hafez recited all the time when he was around Baba. And oh God, I was adrift like a derelict ship. A ship in what kind of liquid? It's wine, right? So it's an ocean of wine, but he's still going to complain about it. So you see, he's mixing this ocean and Love Street metaphor. That's part of the, play of this particular ghazal. Then The wind blew your hair across the sky. What the heck is his hair doing in the sky? You see, the beloved is, that's again, another standard metaphor in this poetry, the hair of the beloved. You know, the locks of hair, and you get lost. It's like a jungle, and you get completely lost in his hair. Do you get lost in Hafiz in his hair? Yeah. And black night fell on the tossed waters and covered the moon from sight. So you see what's happened. Suddenly, his hair has gotten blown out across the sky, and the dawn is finished. It's dark now, and the moon is gone too. Suddenly, it's all become black night because the hair of the beloved has concealed everything. You know, these are the beloved's mystery and game is such that he's throwing up veils and obstacles. What I thought was a star came out, but it was your tear, which hung and burned through the night and took away all fear. We just had dawn coming, but now it's suddenly night. But I don't know, what do you make? What would you do with this? What the heck is his tear doing there? There's no particular right interpretation of this, but it's bringing in a new sort of theme, isn't it? Why is it your tear instead of my tear? Yeah. Yeah. The compassion of the beloved is giving me light and guidance. He thought it was a star, so it's bright apparently, but it's actually his compassion which is helping me through this dark night, which was caused by his hair blacking out everything. Um, so the tear hangs, but it's the tear of the beloved now. So this is a new theme. The beloved hasn't shown his face, but he has shown his tear. I would leave this raft. What the heck is this raft anyway? The ship, yeah. Suddenly on the wine cup, it got all filled up and he's a derelict ship. You see how he's mixed these two metaphors. That's the conceit of this particular ghazal. There's Lover's Lane and then there's an ocean. Those two brought together. I would leave this raft and swim back to you, but alas, now that the daylight has come, the waters are broken glass. I don't know what to make of that exactly, but what do you think? It's not night anymore. Daylight has come again. Huh? What would it be like to swim in broken glass? You'd get cut to pieces, right? So suddenly this ocean is all broken glass separating him, and he has to swim through broken glass to get to the beloved. It's a beautiful picture, though. You've seen the ocean when it's looked like that, right? Sometimes. So he can't get to the beloved because now the ocean is broken glass and he can't leave his raft. So this is a lover's complaint. Yeah, example of it. I guess this whole thing is the distraught one, I suppose, unless Francis's own voice has taken over in the middle of it. Beautiful ghazal, though. I mean, you see the imagery that he's weaving together to give a classic lover's complaint. That's what he's doing here. Yeah, the predicament where he wants to go to the beloved, but he's frozen in place by this, he can't even leave the raft he's on. Yeah. What's that? Yeah, now the daylight has come back. I guess the beloved's hair got drawn or something. We had dawn at the beginning, and then it became black night, and it ends up with daylight again. So there's another organizing pattern within this ghazal. Yeah, Aaron? What's that? Yeah. There's never any resolution. There's never any resting place. You can never abide where you are when you're in that state. This guzzle is totally like that. I mean, a lot of stuff's going on from beginning to end of it. That's the predicament of the lover in Lover's Lane. See, you're in Lover's Lane, but an ocean is there all of a sudden. So it's a great mixing of those two metaphors. I can't think of another guzzle where Francis does exactly this. Let's take a look at another one. Let's see, did we do that yesterday? No, there's some. I'm only just starting to get to know these guzzles a little better. No, we did that yesterday. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's a. No, this is from In Dust I Sing, that collection of guzzles that he published in 1971, but he wrote these when he was staying with Baba in the 60s. Baba goaded him. I mentioned yesterday how Baba kept praising Hafez and reading beautiful ghazals of Hafez's in Persian, which Francis couldn't understand. And he was really getting irritated. I said this yesterday, but once Baba said, Francis, anything you want, I'll give you. Ask for what you want. And Francis said, I never want to hear the name of Hafez again. I mean, it was a joke, obviously. But right after that, Francis started writing his first ghazals, right then. So that you see, Baba had these methods of needling you into, and so Francis was the one who opened that door for, people from the West. Here's one that echoes. There was another one I wanted to look at. It's 26. No, there are so many interesting ones. Oops. Long ago. No, it's not that. Oh, shucks, I'm forgetting which one it is. Okay, let me just take a second and remember where it is. Oh, yeah, number 16. Okay. How easy was wayfaring? By the way, what is wayfaring? Traveling. And what would it mean in Francis's use of it? The journey to God. You leave your home of all the comforts that you've been attached to of your old self and you set off to God. That would be just, you can assume it means that unless the poem indicates otherwise. With how easy was wayfaring with the crackling fire, mocking the rising wind outside, and glinting on a silk stocking. Where are we here? Huh? Safe at home. There's a nice fireplace, and you're wearing a silk stocking apparently, and the firelight is sort of glinting off of it. So, this is a sort of wayfaring where you sit around the fire, talk about it. That's right. It's like us here, right? Our host was very expert in mixing drinks. He's giving gin and tonic and nice things to drink. And in promoting from the conversation double thinks. I'm not sure I know what that means, but I suppose the paradoxes of love or something. You have any read? Something like that, yeah. Yeah, this means this here and it means that there, and something like that. The twists and of discourse relating to the spiritual life. Yeah. And particularly the contradictions of life as they relate to the spiritual path and wayfaring. Yeah. So he's mixing drinks for them all. Sounds nice, right? He talked as though he knew all the states and stations and all our ardencies, hopes, and frustrations. He's actually talking about the beloved, about Baba here. He actually means him. And he talks about the first plane and this Hairat and this, you go through this and you pass through that and you feel this and you long for this and you long for that. And, it's great. The spiritual path sounds like terrific fun as you sip on your gin and tonic or whatever it may be, right, with the fire crackling. I did not realize that he was God playing a game till I saw him standing aloof like a column of flame. Whoa! There is a thing in the Bible where God appears as a column of flame. I think it leads the Israelites out of Egypt. I think there was a column. Do any of you remember that? Anyway, God appears as a column of flame, and so he's not mixing drinks anymore, right? So Francis is showing, he is shown a completely different aspect of himself that's terrifying, actually. This one who we thought was just this nice guy sitting around the fireside, right? He's kind of talking about the way that the beloved presents himself at first, and lures you in and gets you interested in spirituality and all the topics of it. A flame in grief because of our cupidity, our bauble values, and general stupidity. So it's a flame, but it's the grief of the beloved that these idiots who are just so stupid and don't know anything, that he has to kind of keep giving them drinks and giving them nice stories about the planes. The nice stories are true. I don't think he's denying that. But the point is, we'll get to the rage of 1,000 wasted lives tormented in my breast. What's happened to Francis here? What's that? Yeah. What does he regret wasting time doing what? Right. Just sort of, in this case, talking about it instead of doing it. The idleness of still living in the world when you should actually be pursuing the path. And I knew that only at his feet would I ever again find rest. I'm not by the fireside, but I have to become dust at his feet. He glanced at me sideways with a glance remote yet warm. You've seen two sides to him, right? The one mixing drinks and the column of fire, which said, "You will only find me out there in the midst of the storm." So that's the point of the ghazal. None more of this fireside wayfaring. You've got to get out there and do it. Right? Well, a nice ghazal, I think. I can relate to it. I was telling the story. I'll tell it again, even because some might not have heard, because it's a memorable episode for me. I was hearing Balna too and Merwan in Mandali Hall, and they were quoting an Urdu couplet saying that searching for God is like diving into an ocean of fire. And a great line. And Baal was saying, I don't have the courage to do that, to dive into an ocean of fire. But if I saw someone else do it, I would clap. He did sign up for the New Life with Baba, yeah. But even people like that feel like they're not even beginners yet. I know. But I relate to that too. I would clap. Well, Baba told him, lead the New Life. He would have, his health was such he would have died in about 2 weeks. He couldn't have done it. But he signed up. He said yes. He was a yes-walla, as a matter of fact. What's that? I know. So maybe he was underrating himself a little bit. But that's the thing about, the more these great lovers feel that they're not lovers at all. I was working with Merwan Jeswal on infinite intelligence for a long time, a couple of years. And one time we were coming back from where we did the work, and end of the day, and I knew he wouldn't like this, but I just made some comment, talking about a lover of God like you. I just said that. And there was a long silence where, is this even worth dignifying with a reply? And he sort of said, that is so ridiculous that I would call him a lover of God. Marwan Jesawala, any of you meet Marwan Jesawala? I mean, a saint. Baba actually said it. And he wasn't just being modest. It was honestly sort of like, I'm not a lover of God. I know myself and I'm not. So those people who really are the real thing don't feel themselves to be that at all. Let's see. Greed, greediness. He's disgusted with all our petty wants and desires. Okay, here's, let me see, 56. Here's one echoing the Bible. I tend to think that a good way to read these would be, some people just like to sit down with a book, and that's fine, but, to read them in a group. You have a group reading Stay with God right now, right? Yeah. I think that's a good way, because then you read them aloud. And if you read them on your own, sometimes you just gloss through it and don't really get it. But if you're with a group, you can kind of unpack things more. And I think you get much, much more out of these when you spend time with them. So here's, we sat down by the river of dust and made a new song in praise of our Lord the innkeeper, whose wine is sweet and strong. Now, does this, I don't know, any of you brought up in the church, there's one of the Psalms this is really an echo of, very famous one. And it's, by the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, sing us one of the songs of Zion, Just sort of, we want to hear what it sounds like, you slaves, How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. Actually be cut off. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you. Like that. Very famous. There are popular songs based on it. It's very St. John of the Cross wrote a beautiful, beautiful poem based on this. So Francis is echoing it. But it's not the rivers of Babylon, it's the river of dust. And when I read this, I'm not sure I quite know how to understand it. In praise of our Lord the innkeeper. What's this innkeeper stuff about? You know the metaphor of the tavern, right? What is the metaphor of the tavern? Yeah. And who is it who gives the wine? The beloved. Saki is one of the words used in Persian poetry. So he gives out wine and everybody gets drunk and they have a grand old time. This is the metaphor of the darbar, the intimate company of the divine beloved. So Francis uses this. So if you see innkeeper, you can kind of assume it's referring to that setting of the immediate company of Baba. We have been taken into captivity and we rejoice, for in bondage we are free, and in chains we have found our true voice. Now this is kind of the question I have about this ghazal. Is Francis talking about our predicament in the world where we're in bondage, we have jobs, you know, you have to deal with worldly consciousness all the time? Or is he talking about slavery to the beloved, where you have to obey him all the time, where you don't have any freedom of movement, you do the slightest thing and he gets upset with you? I'm not totally sure, but what do you think? Do you have a hit on it? So why Francis is there living with Baba at Meherzad? Why is he in bondage? Huh? Yeah. You have to get up at a certain time. I think Francis liked to be a night owl, but Baba would have him get up. And, you know, you're supposed to come in at, let's suppose, 10 o'clock starting time. And you get there at 10 o'clock and Baba says, "Why are you late?" And the next day you come in at 9:45 and Baba again says, "Why are you late?" No matter what you do, you're constantly being chastised by him or else praised by him for things you don't deserve praise for at all. So it is slavery to be with Baba in that way. That's to be a slave to the beloved. He's probably talking about that. You know, there's a marvelous poem that, you know, Ghani, Dr. Ghani, um, right before the new life, uh, 2 or 3 weeks before it, Baba told Ghani, okay, write a poem where you let it all out, where you say everything. And he wrote, it's called Jeremiah Dasaki. You know what a Jeremiah is? You know the prophet Jeremiah, who, you know, in the Bible, who was constantly tearing into the people of Israel for all their bad behavior. So a Jeremiah is a caustic, a wailing lament and criticism. So Jeremiah Dasaki, that's what Ghani called it. And he says exactly what you're talking about, that you gave us all these promises and you led us on in this divine intoxication, but then you kept putting us off, you know, with this and with that. Oh, well, next month it will happen. Or we won't, you know, I won't give you God realization now, but in 2 weeks we'll have a nice dinner. Or, or maybe we could go on a nice little outing, you know, things like that. On and on and on and on and on. So he really, really complains about that. That was part of Baba's method of weaning them away from expecting anything, getting them to let go, including the worst of all things, and this is a big theme of Francis's, is wanting and expecting to advance spiritually. That's maybe the biggest trap of all. I think with a lot of spiritual religious movements, that's one of the biggest problems is, well, I'm giving up stuff, and people in the world don't all appreciate what I am, but, you know, I'm kind of getting somewhere, you know. And I'm kind of better than these. Oh, no, I'm not better than them. I'm worse than them. I'm much lower than them. See how good I am for being so humble. You know, the ego just jumps on this. And I think a lot of Baba's work was to get people, I think with his lovers today, I think a main part of what he does with his lovers is to get his lovers just to drop it. And I think for the most part his lovers do. I think his lovers don't spend their time thinking about how advanced we are. I mean, thing is, if I were to think how advanced I am, it's like 2 seconds of self-honesty. It's like, whoa, I hope people don't find out about this or about that. And so I think Baba has actually done the work with his lovers of getting us to drop that. So that's what I think a lot of that was about. That's my opinion anyway. Yes. Oh, that's a beautiful figure for that. Because in the course of time, your beautiful, realer self manifests. Yeah. No, that's a nice way to construe that. When we came here first, we planted a seed of poverty. And now, watered with our tears, it has become a new knowledge tree. So the seed of poverty, we've been brought here in the river of dust, and we gave up everything and got poverty. What does it mean, watered by our tears? Hmm? Yeah. Grief, all the grief we've gone through by being in this. Thus, we're watering the seed that was planted then. So he's using a metaphor. You water a plant. And this has given rise to knowledge. That is, some real, true understanding of the higher things has grown out of that. Yeah, it's suffering that has come out of the condition we've been put in, but it seems to have, because it's the seed of poverty, which is the higher truth, it's led to a truer understanding of things. This is real knowledge, not knowledge with a capital K, but the beginnings, the approach to that. Our master said to us, "Sing me a song of the olden days." And you see, that I've just read you from the Psalm of David, right, where your captors say, "Sing us a song of Zion, let us hear how it sounds." But this sounds like it's the real captivity, because the master is saying, "Sing a song of the olden days." And we ordered the stars to repeat their first shout of praise. What the heck is that? Now, if you read the whole collection of ghazals, you would see this theme come up a lot. This is a metaphor that Francis continually uses for at the moment of creation, when God said, "Who am I?" and creation sprang into being, all the stars shouted their cry of praise because the stars were created. Another theme of Francis says is the stars are actually looking towards us because they want to become human one day. They're looking humanward, earthward, and we have to look towards God. So the song of the olden days, well, that's the olden days, right? Like the beginning of creation. So he's being pretty absolute about it. And we ordered the stars to repeat their first shout of praise. After a night of wine and song, when the morning came, the rising sun kissed the hills and they burst into flame. This just seems to be nice imagery of, dawn came. There's been a whole night of spent with the beloved. A lot of the ghazals are like this, about time spent in the company of the beloved and singing and getting drunk. Those wonders by his compassion, when in no way has our worth been proved, and we have not yet even begun to love him as he should be loved. This is the feeling of those who are his companions. We don't deserve his love at all. The laws which Moses brought down, okay, because this is echoing, that psalm, right? And captivity and, and remembering Zion and all of that. What are the laws that Moses brought down? What's that? Ten Commandments in particular. I don't know if any of you ever read Deuteronomy. It's full of laws. But anyway, there's a whole structure of the legal code given by God at that time. The laws which Moses brought down were lees from the cask of this one, whose wine keeps us captive by the waters of a new Babylon. What are lees from the cask? Huh? Yeah. And yes, and down at the bottom, it becomes visible. So do you think you'd get the best stuff there? No. You get the dregs, all muddied, all crapped up, right? That's what that would be used for, lees from the cask. So it's been a cask of wine. You're down to the bottom, and I don't know. I've never had a cask of wine myself. Yeah. What's that? Yeah. All the sediments are down there. You're not just getting the wine, you're getting all the stuff mixed up with it. So, in other words, what Moses gave them and the Psalms that he's echoing here, it was nothing compared to what we're getting. But his wine keeps us captives by the waters of a new Babylon. So there's the first line. I think there is a kind of ambiguity about this. It seems to be mostly about being slave and captive to the master. It seems like that. But I kind of get the feeling sometimes that it's referring to the predicament of his lovers of being slaves to the world. I mean, I certainly have felt that. I dare say some of you do. Living in a world that just doesn't understand the higher things at all. Every day, yeah. And you're constantly being hammered and working with an environment that's just ignorant and hostile to everything that's real. So I kind of get that feeling a little bit here. But the primary reference seems to be the slave to the master there. Okay, let's read a little bit. We could spend, sessions on these guzzles. We've dealt with maybe 6 of them, and there are probably about 200 or so. And these aren't particularly, I don't even know them well enough to completely know what to pick or what's the best. But I wanted to get to a little bit of the caustic Francis, lest you might think that it was all just sweetness and nice times with him. And that is this book, The Word at World's End. Have any of you read this, The Word at World's End? You have, yeah. So one person here only, yeah. He published it in 1971, and it's in 5 books, 5 sections, and it begins with hell, the Inferno. Have you heard of Dante's Inferno, Dante? Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso. It's the Divine Comedy, which probably the greatest work of medieval Europe, I'd say, work of total poetic genius. Well, this is Francis Brabazon's Inferno. So let's read a little bit of it. Because, we don't want to have too much of a nice time. Yeah. That was just a name for the, what's now, what do they call the Sufi school? Yeah, it was, I think it was a sort of some kind of a school that the Sufis kind of bought and owned. I may be mistaken, but Ivy Deuce was heavily involved with it. So it's not like it was some major institution like Stanford or anything like that. Yeah. Pascal Kaplan. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, does it still exist? Yeah. We heard a lot about it in the 70s, and then it sort of dropped off the map as far as I know. Yeah. Huh? Yes, that's right. Pascal, Pascal Kaplan, he's a Sufi, and he was taught there, and I think he was a PhD in religious studies. So let's read I read these last time, but let's read a couple of these to get an idea of it. Now, this is called, this first section is called A Dream of Wet Pavements. And it's kind of, again, it's an inferno, and he's characterizing modern life, particularly urban life, as that. And man, when I think about when he was living in the West, I mean, that was pretty nice compared to now. But he's being savagely critical about the complete absence of awareness of God in that setting. But the central symbol, and you'll see it, is wet pavements. And now I know you never get those here in Los Angeles, but, well, once a year. So you're walking down at night and, wet pavements and they're reflecting things. It's a vivid experience. That's his symbol for amidst all of this nightmare, in the wet pavements you get a glimpse and a reflection of something that is beyond this. So it's a kind of a symbol of a feeling that there's something more real than this world that appears before us. So he keeps returning to that. So let's do some prosodic analysis, the prosody. Remember, rhyme and meter? I sing within a night that's lent to soap and axes to invent new slaughters of the innocent, where patient rats gnaw tired cement. Pretty nice, huh? What's the meter? I sing within a night that's lent. Tetrameter. And the basic foot is, you remember the word for that? It's an iamb. It's an iambic tetrameter. That is da-da, that's an iamb. Unstressed, stressed. And tetrameter means 4 feet. I sing within a night that's lent to soap and axes to invent new slaughters of the innocent, where patient rats gnaw tired cement. Now, the point of this is it's like hammer, 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 relentless hammering. You see, pentameter is, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more something and more temperate, rough wind. It's the 5 foot is more expansive and less constrained and less drumbeat. But this is a drumbeat, and it's quite intentional because he's going to relentlessness on it. How about the rhyme scheme? A. Just keeping the same rhyme going throughout the whole thing. So it's a night. It's not a night where the full moon is going to rise up like a yellow rose. Remember that yesterday? But it's a little hard to figure out. That's lent to soap and axes to invent. How do you understand that grammatically? It's not altogether clear, I will say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Soap and axes. Why those two? Well, what do you do with soap? You wash yourself. What do you do with axes? You become an axe murderer. Yeah. And slaughters of the innocent seems to suggest it might not just be just trees, right? Soap and axes. Well, you see those two. I'm so nice and clean, right? This is our modern world. We pretend to be so clean. We pretend to be so nice. And it's actually brutal, right? The brutality. That's why he's joined to those two. It's not just like, machetes and axes. No, it's soap. Because we are so nice. We are so civilized. We are so good. That's the idea there. New slaughters of the innocent. I think this was a murder, maybe of the Huguenots in France. Maybe somebody could look this up in like 16, but it was a massacre that happened. It looks to me like he's saying a night that has lent the authority or the capacity to soap and axes, those two combined, to invent new slaughters of the innocent. These two combined are slaughtering innocence, this phony pretense of being clean and underlining cruelty and brutality. That's how I read this. I don't know. Yeah. What's that? Oh, yeah, that's right. By Herod, right. Herod, way back then, the slaughters of the innocent. And what the heck are these rats doing here? Patient rats, not tired cement. Yeah. 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 So we've got this thing, this modern world with soap and axes, and the rats are chewing, and it's sort of under the underworld, you might say, but it's our life too. Patient rats, not tired. I think rats do not cement, don't they? I think they do, point of fact. So you can see it's kind of a horrific imagery he's already brought up. Ready for half an hour of horrific imagery? Because he's going to multiply it. A night song. So I sing within a night. So this is a night song. In a dreadful night, batteried by the fluorescent might of strident trumpets in a fright, bellowing bitchery's delight. Okay, how do you make sense of all of this? It's batteried. The night song is batteried. So that's what gives it its light, right? The power. Um, what is the fluorescent might of strident trumpets? This is mixing a metaphor, right? Trumpets don't create light. So he's mixing sound with light, and it's fluorescent light. It's not like, 19th century, street lights where you lit with a fire. No. So what's the difference between fluorescent light and candles? Yeah, candles are natural, and fluorescent lights are kind of artificial, and they're kind of glaring, right? And what about these strident trumpets? You see, he's just being poetic. There's not an exact, precise reference, but blaring, offensive, obnoxious noise all the time, right? I mean, haven't you experienced some of that? If you don't hear it literally, it's like, God, between all the things going on in the world, it's like, the noise, strident. And they're in a fright because they're always creating hysteria, right? That's the sort, that's the source of what illumines this dreadful night. It's this. That's where the energy comes from. Bellowing bitchery's delight. Well, what do you say about that? It's a great phrase, isn't it?
Well, it makes me think of how the news is delighted to share this disastrous information.
All the worst.
Yes,
You can guarantee them to go right to the worst.
with glee.
And they love it.
Yes.
They love it. Bellowing bitchery's delight. He's going to have a whole bunch of newspaper headlines in a couple pages here. So this is the night song, but now we're going to get the other theme. Oops. Which wet pavements shape into dreams that softly sigh, there's more than seems. Beneath the fret, beneath the screams, there flow perennial love streams, right? So I don't know, it's a vivid imagery to me. When I was 16 or 15, I used to do these long walks at night. I remember wet pavements. Do you guys experience that sometimes? Even in Los Angeles? Where, you're seeing a reflection and it looks like there's something beyond that is here. That's his symbol here. So beneath all of this, there are these hints and intimations. And what are these perennial love streams? Well, it's divine love. Divine love is always there. So these three stanzas kind of encapsulate the theme of this whole section, which he's going to develop a lot here. Let me see, what should we won't be able to read all of it. I'd like to read some selections. In this night, which neon makes day, why does neon make it day? Neon lights. Before it was fluorescent lights, and now it's neon. It's all artificial. And there's a little bit of the feeling that he doesn't quite say it, but come on, it's night. Let it be night for heaven's sakes. But oh no, we're going to make night day with neon shining all the time. The easy speakmen are raking hay for Big Fist, who doles them their pay. Now, Big Fist is a major character throughout the Word at World's End. And he does, but who do you suppose Big Fist, what do you think that would be alluding to? Money, power, and it's Big Fist because if you get in my way, I pound you. It doesn't give a damn about anything or anyone. So that's a central symbol in this whole thing, Big Fist. What do you think easy speakmen are? The easy speakmen are raking. Are they farmers? No. Because they're raking hay. Means they're making money, right? And
The ones who literally work for Big Fist.
they're particularly good at what as speakmen? Talking. Our plans for 2025, the next 6 months, it's going to be even better than the first 6 months were, just endlessly talking and persuading you and gulling you along with their talk. And they work for Big Fist. He hires them. And nubile girls sing a roundelay. Do you know what a roundelay is? If you listen to advertisements, you'll hear them all the time. Just a jingle. It's like a jingle. A little phrase that they're trying to sell you on something. Whatever it is, it's just one thing after another. And they're nubile girls because they're all sexy and they look really attractive and they lure your eyes in, right? Working also for Big Fist. Let's see. To men and gas. Okay, I'll say, I'll just jump ahead. And gazing at the ghastly glow. By the way, do you know what alliteration is? Alliteration? What is alliteration? Yeah, consonant sounds repeated. So do you see any of that in this line? Gazing, ghastly, glow. G, g, g. So it's a poetic device. And gazing at the ghastly glow of neon's blood in silent flow. What is neon's blood? The light. So why does he call it blood? Bright colors, and it's like bleeding. There's this, I don't know, what do you say? This, it's violent. It's inherently violent, although it appears to be otherwise. It's like bellowing Bitchery's delight. So it's the blood of neon because it's flowing out like red, glaring colors and illuminating everything. They're spasms, and this would be the men in shirt streams, each alone. We didn't read that thing. Men in shirt sleeves, each alone. Their spasms and their twitchings grow, knowing the cocks will surely crow. In other words, this is nighttime, but you know that morning is going to come. And just to surprise you, morning is not much better than night is. And also there's probably a sexual, because he's got some sexual stuff going on. The cocks will surely crow. And youth in theaters, this was back in the days People like Margaret and Sam and I would remember when people went to theaters. Back, there was a time, when you came out, you had to watch out, you might get trampled by a dinosaur. Back in those times. So he's talking about those times. Youth in theaters, row on row, sit cheek to cheek and glow to glow. You know, when you'd take a girl out on a date and go to a theater, cheek to cheek and glow to glow. Fearing the crop that love may sow, which they with teeth will have to hoe. It's a little bit puzzling, but when I read this in Australia, they were able to decode it. What do you think? Huh? Yeah. You know, you have a date and, you know, the girl gets pregnant and you've got to hoe with your teeth somehow to support the situation. Something like that. Let's see. I'm going to jump a little bit. In the sophisticated light of plush caves, vocalists recite in strangled tones the bed's delight. I mean, you've heard plenty of songs like that, right? All this sort of sexy stuff. The red cocks range themselves for fight. Now, it's just kind of a crazy image, but it may be, the male genitalia, that kind of thing. It may have, probably has a reference to that. Men fighting against each other. The cocks crow red, the red cocks crow. A hare divides high note from low. Do you remember that Shakespeare song we read yesterday? Your true love's coming, that can sing both high and low. Do you remember that line? Beautiful line. Well, in this case, there's not much range. There's not much capacity. There's not much real emotional register there. It's all like constrained in the same narrow mold. Man hair, girl hair united know the magic of electric flow. That sounds like sex to me, isn't it? Probably is. So these are the young people, and he's talking about how, I don't know, not just degraded it is, but what a constrained, ignorant world it's all in. The wind sings round tall mod con huts. I don't know if we use that here, but I think in Australia it's referring to like apartments, high-rise apartments, I think. Anyone know that from, we don't have any Australians here. A door opens and smiles and shuts. Right? When a door opens, it's like it's smiling for a second, right? Like, oh, come in. And then it shuts again. Foreign fingers and thighs score ruts. I mean, this is sexual imagery. The dawn peeps over trays of butts, right? Cigarette butts, right? So back in those days, everybody smoked. You don't see this now. Francis did. He was a big smoker. Nightmare refreshed, we rise. What about this nightmare refreshed? What do you think about that? It's not very refreshing, is it? Okay, so we've just had night. Now we're coming into daytime. Nightmare refreshed, we rise from bed. Tighten the loose screws in our head. You got to get your act together a little bit. Breakfast on sawdust and liquid lead. Is Rosie here at the moment? Yeah. Well, she does a lot better. She's my hostess, and she does a lot better than this, I'll tell you. He has a lot of things talking about. Why does he say nobody eats sawdust and liquid lead, obviously? Why is he saying that? It feels like it, yeah. It's all artificial. It's not natural. In fact, he says that. Instead of fresh, plain-fashioned bread. We used to eat natural food, and now we eat this horrible liquid lead. I mean, just artificial stuff that tastes sweet and is not good for us at all. There's a lot of this dietary indications of what we eat. And I'll read a couple of these. The news headlines run, kingdom come for the poor, the always with you dumb, right? Why are the poor always, you remember who said the poor will always be with you? Jesus, yeah. So they're always going to be with you, and they're dumb, right? Now, dumb in one sense that they don't speak for themselves, but they're also stupid, right? The newspapers won't say so, but kingdom come for them. Well, why is that? Well, probably because, we've got great new programs that's going to save them all, right? Because he's going to get into the politicians. He has some nice words to say about them, as you can imagine. New expressway plows through slum. Do you see a relationship between that line and the two lines before it? The slum is where the poor were. And you're putting expressway through, and to hell with them, right? But kingdom come for them anyway. That's what we're going to say. Man dies through drinking office gum, right? This is just like random. Girl galled at man's two-timing, cuts to his refrigerator guts. He's sort of pot-bellied guy with oxytorch. Pleads, he drove me nuts, adding, he always pulled his putts. Diplomat, this is just kind of a random thing, but there's an associational logic between them. Diplomat says that rival ghouls, well, if they're rival ghouls, what is the diplomat? He's a ghoul too, right? So obviously the newspaper is not going to call them ghouls, but Francis is. Diplomat says that rival ghouls patch the pitch his cunning cruels. Do you see the alliteration here? Patch the pitch his cunning cruels. And this is metaphoric, you could say, but pitch would be like in a road, right? Something like that. And rival ghouls, his cunning has torn up this pitch, and the rival ghouls are putting patches over it, right? That's what it looks like to me. Does you read it that way? Patch the pitch, his cunning cruels. Wife, mistress, both are either. He's got a wife and a mistress. Sewels him on to pinch the crown jewels. Do you know what sewels means? Kind of tempts and begs him on, yeah. Sewels him on to pit the cunning jewels. Okay, so there are a couple more stanzas of this, of what the newspaper headlines are saying that day. So it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously not quite as overt as this, but isn't the news something like this, really? It's horrible. It's one ghastly thing after another. So then they go to work. Let me see. Let's go to see. Okay. The lift takes up a beribboned clown. What does beribboned mean?
Ribbons decorated?
Yeah, decorated with ribbons, right? Clutching democracy's new crown of smiling days without a frown. The ex-president rides it down. The lift is an elevator, right? So the ribbon clown is the new president. And smiling days sounds pretty good. Everything is going to be great now that he's president. Haven't you heard this before? Good Lord, there's no end to it, you know. The new house, okay, I'll jump. There's so many great stanzas. Oh, I will read it because at least the next. The new head, that's the new president, mouths, he will now decline mouths for his tongue he gave to spline the wheels of the production line. You know what to spline is? To grease it. He gave away his tongue he sold out to his donors or to the business who bribed him or whatever it is. Aggressions, nouns through history line. It's actually a great metaphor. I won't take the time to unpack it. But he's going to decline aggressions, nouns through history line. He mouths and farts most wondrously. And all agree, what oratory? At last, we grasp that liberty is the true object of will be. That is, it's never now. It's always something that's going to happen in the future, but it never actually happens. All of these promises are unfulfilled. Let's see. Okay, let's look at this one. Thieves, with all the delicate graces of shaven chins and double faces, are brought back from minor disgraces to occupy the highest places. I mean, if he was saying that then, it's nothing but this, isn't it? The great I mean, what do you say? Shaven chin, I mean, I don't know, what do you say? These people are so disgusting. I mean, the great financiers and the priests, the special agents of the beast, he reaps the most who toils the least. Right? What is that saying? Yeah. If you don't do anything that is of benefit to anyone, you're the one who rakes it in, who gets everything, you know. Because their priests would be like their think tanks, their gurus, their people who advise them. So people with money drink vintage virtue at their feasts. Now this is a little bit, what do you think drinking vintage virtue means? Yeah, right. Yes, we're going to benefit, 20,000 people this year. Last year it was only 10,000. Everyone's, we're going to get all these jobs for our community, whatever it is, how good we are. It's vintage because you pop it out of a bottle. You've heard it 1,000 times before. It's all phony, complete phoniness. Let's see. I'm going to jump a little bit. Oh yeah, here's a little bit of diet. I somehow think that at Meherabode we're going to do a little better than this. Dinner of bones and Bakelite, or just a little smoldering spite, while those with fragile appetite prefer eggs fried in gelignite. This is like a poisonous kind of oil, Some thrive on boiled cans with beans, some leather spread with pickled spleens. Others eat only TV screens, depending on their craze and means. It's dense imagery to all of this. And again, Francis obviously isn't saying that we actually eat this, but he's saying that our food is all artificial and horrible. It's completely unnatural through and through. Let's see. Yeah, and here's Big Fist comes back here. Big Fist's con men, puff-cheeked, slit-eyed, as swine and sty. What's a swine? Is pigs, yeah. Have multiplied beyond pig comfort. They trot slide in the cool evening in their pride. Pink snouts held high like flags, right? These are like the politicians, right? So you can see them, because their heads are turned up because they're so proud of themselves. Pink snouts held high like flags. They glide so smoothly and so satisfied, and bow and smile as they trot slide, grunt greetings that are grunt replied. These are all our leaders and elite sort of interacting. And they all like each other and they pose for the cameras. I don't know. You get all of this? I mean, my God, it's like totally hasn't changed at all except it's worse. That swine knowledge be verified. Manhood, womanhood, they've denied. Spirits fair form have stultified. Horrid silence, bright mind, stupefied. So this is, since we're getting towards the end, yeah, let me see. He has a lot of other topics he brings up here. Yeah.
What prompted him to write this? Just in State of the World?
Yeah. There's a lot in Stay with God. It's not like this exactly. It's more analytical, where he's actually talking about false ideas and false values. But this is like a stream of consciousness about the modern world. You see what it's about. He's just giving imagery that really does relate to modern life, trying to show how shallow and false and degrading it all is, you know. And God is nowhere in all of this. Although we do get a glimpse of it, he brings back the theme here. Big fist may lead us by the nose and belt us on with freedom's blows. He's just had 4 stanzas of freedom. You know, what we call freedom is not freedom at all, nothing like it. But still, within each heart, love flows in streptophonic undertows. Streptophonic is a word he invented, a chain of music. That's always there through all of this inferno. For every heart within it bears a virgin soul untouched by fears of being laid off and rent arrears, a pristine self unstained by tears. There is that within us which this never touches. It's completely beyond all of this. Beneath all this which is or seems, behind the crude electric screams, which wet pavements shape into dreams. Like, wet pavements are almost like the dream life, something like that. Yeah, I think that's there too. In our suffering, we get a glimpse, intuition of something beyond all of this. Yeah. Self floweth in perennial streams. Self means God, right? God is always there, and perennial means always there, eternal. Strenual streams of love. Separate, now these are the perennial streams, separate though mingled in accord, the 4-part fugue of the great word. Do you know what this what is a 4-part fugue? Do you know what a fugue is by any chance? It's the musical form that was really perfected by Bach, who Francis admired most highly, as do I. He's one of the greatest spiritual musicians. And a fugue is a form reliant on counterpoint, which is, anyway, it's a musical method where the lines are going in opposite directions. And a 4-part fugue is a magnificent chorale created by 4 different parts, creating a unified, glorious music of praise to God. That's what he's talking about. So these streams create great diversity and all sorts of different lines of music, but they all combine into a glorious fugue of the great word. That's the word of God, right? So the word of God is creating this magnificent fugue, guarded by an angel with a flaming sword. Any of you remember the angel with the flaming sword in the Bible? Huh? It might be, but when Adam and Eve are cast out of Eden, paradise, Eden is closed off by an angel with a flaming sword. So an angel with a flaming sword protects what is most holy against those unworthy of it. So this 4-point fugue is always there, but it's protected from sight from those unfit to see it. It's always there, though, which only the pure in heart have heard. This is always there beneath this horrific appearance. It flows on to our lives and glows in textures of the themes we chose, when from the primeval swamps we rose, manward under evolution's blows. I'll keep going. It flows on ever to compose new tissue, which we then transpose into acts of poetry and prose, and dissolve at last in a full close. So this music, which is always there, we transpose it into our own poetry and prose, our own best efforts, you might say. It's the foundation of what we attempt to do, and we try to live a better life or get closer to God. It's that word of God through the 4-point fugue that's underneath it all. I'm going to jump right to, anyway, there's a lot more in this. He actually said day in the light. It started at nighttime. We saw the news headlines, and they go to work, and there's a lot on going to work, and you saw all the politicians strutting around like pigs and sties, and it comes into night again. And let's see. Yeah, from home to arrival at night, here we are being back at home again. So now he starts to pray to God. God, numb our minds and stop the pain of loneliness. Peace, like soft rain, fall and wash away the rubbed-in stain. Tomorrow we must march again. There's no end to it. You just have to get up in the morning and do the damn thing all over again. There's no relief in this life we've got. We pray for one night free from huddles of ad men and soap opera bubbles, right? From writhing hips and obscene cuddles. This is love as it's presented to us in the public consciousness. Of pools of sentimental puddles, that what's shown to us as affection and love is just sentimentality. It's not the real thing at all. Let's see. And here he's coming to the end of it. Let's see. Just one night free from this. Give us a break from the relentlessness of all of this. I close my song. The night is spent where patient rats gnaw tired cement, and virgin veils were rudely rent. Remember the youth and theater, row and row? And axes slew the innocent, from which the speakmen made much hay. These are the people who are, public presenters, and they raked in lots of money. While buds of girls sang the roundelay, the wide smile for the better day. Everything is so good. We're all so happy, right? It's phony. He puts it all in capital letters. The line that Big Fist knew would pay. A night song in an iron night, now sicklied over with the light of broken trumpets' desperate flight that once blazed a fluorescent might. And this is the very end of it. From which wet pavements shaped dim dreams. This theme recurs throughout this whole section, that whispered, there is more than seems. Beneath are fitful gleams. There flow perennial love streams. Notice something that has never come up in this whole thing is God. You notice that? We have the wet pavements. That's as close as we get. But God has been completely absent from this whole part of the poem. The dawn breaks for us on a high plateau beneath a cold glass sky where even vultures do not fly. Why is it, what is cold glass sky? It somehow isn't nice, is it? The sky is beautiful, but it's made of glass and you can't penetrate it, and you can scratch it, and so and even vultures don't fly there. Vultures are very unattractive birds, right? Even
Downtown too, where there's so many high-rises and skyscrapers, you look up and the sky seems like a painted ocean.
yeah, like about 3 miles from here. Downtown is about 3 miles from here, right? Yeah. To, to roam like beasts with wordless cry. That's our predicament, right? And this is the very end. The emptiness is a steel vice which holds us till we pay the price our lives have fixed. We've done this to ourselves. This is the price we've created for the lives we're leading. Across our heart's ice, God-man stumbles with his huge cross. That's the point of this whole part of it, right? That he's actually being crucified in this whole situation. It's actually a very powerful last line. And you notice vice, price, ice, cross. It's an imperfect rhyme. I usually don't like imperfect rhymes, but this one works really well, actually. All of a sudden, Baba has entered into the story. He's stumbling with his huge cross through this hellacious life that we've created for ourselves. Anyway, do you like it? Some people don't like this kind of thing when Francis does it, and other people do like it. Huh?
Internally agitated if you want to use
We just looked at little bits, but it's very dense poetically. It's a cascade of image poured on image, like that.
I think he's describing the World War.
Yeah.
So you said this was tetrameter 4?
Yes.
Because it's more pounding? So that, when you ask, I felt like I've been pounded.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's the point. This is just me interpreting, but da 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 da. You know, with the rhyme going on and on, it's relentless, and I think it's very intentionally relentless. It's like because this life in this modern world this is very urban, by the way. All the imagery is urban. And it's like a day in the life, starting at night, going through a day and coming back to night again. And it's quite intentional that God has been completely left out because God has been left out of the life he's describing. And all of a sudden, there he is. Why is it our heart's ice?
So it's our hearts, the environment, the world we live in.
Our hearts have been frozen. There's no warmth in them anymore. This cold glass sky, and he's stumbling across the ice of our frozen hearts that don't receive him, carrying his huge cross. Suddenly, he comes in the last line, and he hasn't been there at all before. That's totally the point of this whole part of the poem.
And it makes sense it doesn't rhyme.
Huh?
And it makes sense it doesn't rhyme.
It does to me, too. It's a bit jolting, you know. But it's not, there is the SS, ice, os. It's sort of assonance. It's a half rhyme, but it's not a perfect rhyme. Always before here, it's been, true rhymes. But suddenly the God-man is stumbling across this frozen, awful world that we've created. So this is Francis's Inferno, I think. And it all starts to rise from here within a word at world's end. I'll look. We have to break for lunch in just a few minutes, um, but
You know, but in answer to your question
yeah,
about whether you like it, I mean, I appreciate it because it really shows the context of it.
yeah,
Focusing on Brabazon, music, love, so on.
yeah,
But this is the contrast. This is what we get every day.
yeah,
What we see in the modern world and or the world we live in.
yeah,
So, you know, it's almost like, hey, we got a choice here.
right,
You can live in this world.
right.
Really love that.
I kind of I enjoy it greatly because I feel somebody has got to say it, you know? I mean, we try to be cheerful and see the best in everything and everyone, and that's our basic modality, which it has to be. But at some point, somebody's got to call a spade, you know? And it's created, when you leave God out of things, you create hell. And that's what we've got. And he wrote this about, he had lived in the West in the 1950s. Nowadays, the 50s sound like paradise compared to what we've got now. I mean, if the leaders were pigs and swine back then, what are they now? And it's not just the fault of the politicians. The whole thing is so. I mean, I'm not denying there are good things. And I don't think Francis is either. But this is what comes of leaving. That's why Baba gave him the title Stay with God, and that's his theme. You leave God out, and this is what you get. Yeah.
But Baba suggests, he loves everything. Talks to everybody
Right.
any day.
So you're going to give the brighter side of things.
Yes.
And Francis gets,
Baba is present all the time.
yes, that's, actually, he is saying that with
It's very good. I love it.
the wet pavements shaping into dreams are whispering, there's more than this.
Perennial love stream.
The perennial love streams are always flowing beneath all of this. But boy, I've been unemployed since 1993. I quit my job then. But, people who have to just go out and work every day in these heartless, environments, it beats you down, doesn't it? Wouldn't you say that? A lot. It's not all bad, but there's it's not all bad as part of what, like, we tell ourselves to remember to see the best in it, and it's good to do that. But the falsehood is so dense and so thick, and false values are everywhere. Well, I just want to, Francis, the next section is on the young poets. It's actually very moving. And a big fist is there pounding up on people. But also, the young poets are people who, especially the younger people, who feel there's something more than this, but they're really lost and they're kind of blundering around. And they don't really know what they're looking for or how to find it. And so they try this and they try that, and Big Fist pounds them to death. So it's kind of the intuitions of people who want to find their way to something better in this. That's what that whole section is about. It's very touching. It's a day in the life again, actually. And the third section is the Ballad of the Rhyming Knight. And this is kind of like a beginning. Here the young poets go by. On coral feet they go. What do you think coral, have you ever walked on coral? It just tears your feet apart, right? So it's like agonizing how they walk by. So cruelly slow, searching the corners of their eyes for definitions, searching for freedom amidst the prohibitions, greeting vague recognitions, not yet having learnt to listen to their heart's tone. So that's the theme here. It's very touching, He's talking about the predicament of all these people who are feeling there's something there, but they don't know what the hell they're doing. But they definitely don't like Big Fist, and Big Fist doesn't like them either. Pounds them. And then we have the rhyming knight. And here you have the beginnings of someone who's starting to want to find the spiritual path, but is kind of a blundering beginner. Did any of you read Don Quixote by Cervantes? You read it? Yeah. It's a masterpiece. He's got this idealistic knight, and he's going to go out, and he sees a windmill, and he takes it as a famous episode, as a bad night, and he charges the windmill with his lance and knocked for a loop. It's absolutely hilarious. So it's this idealist who's completely out of touch with reality, but you really like him, you know. So there's a lot of that here. So I'll just read a couple. This is the rhyming knight. The knight on draft horse rides for lass. So he's riding for his lady, you know, in chivalric poetry. You ride for your lady, and if anyone insults her, you fight. You joust to defend her honor. Rides for lass through desert, jungle, and mountain pass. He's very bold but young, alas. And Francis keeps dropping in great ones in the last line of it that have nothing to do with the rest of the stanza. And I think the idea is this rhyming knight is kind of blundering along, but his world is saturated with the insight or the remembrance or the thought of these great ones. They're in the picture now where they weren't before. Jesus goes bareback on an ass. You see, he's riding on a draft horse, and Jesus is riding on an ass. The knight goes by in shining mail. Shireen milks camel into pail. The hermit recites love's sad tale. Muhammad meets the stony pale. He was actually had a tooth knocked out with a rock in one of the battles there. It's kind of free association with the jumble of imagery that he's using a lot. The knight clops by in jingling steel. Yang Kui Fei, her own pot she'll keel. This is a famous Chinese empress. The boatman pays out line from reel. Confucius plans the commonweal. Now we've got Confucius. If we spent more time, it's kind of an associational, free association of ideas he's doing. The knight trots by in armor bright. The yogi's mat. Suddenly we've got a yogi. These persons and presences are suddenly part of the world now, whereas they certainly weren't in the first one we read, right? Nothing like that was there, because he dries 3 wet sheets in one night. The Buddha preaches men's birthright. So I'm going to jump right to the end of it. This knight is kind of a blundering fool to a large extent, but he's very sincere. He rhymes and rides and sings his say to arbored lady. He's riding for his lady. He's a chivalric knight. He sings when they shall meet in bed to love and pray. The night is not far from the way. So now we're starting to get close to the path to God. That's what this one is about, in a very highly poetical form. And there's a 4th section about kind of an apocalypse where the whole civilization collapses. That's what this one is about. And the very last one is Hymn to God the Man. And now we've come to pure, glorious praise of the God-man. That's what this whole thing is. I'll read just a little small bits of it. Beloved God, all the earth is singing to you. In the impermanent materials of stone, leaf, and heart, singing you, yearning, leaning towards your reaping. This is free verse, by the way. There's no metrical stuff here. You are the perennial and glorious avatar, the human and lovely Rasul. You know what the Rasul is? Yeah, prophet. Rasul is the Islamic name for prophet. Muhammad is Rasulallah, the prophet of God. The sudden and beautiful Christ, who stoops to man's state and walks the earth carrying the cross of our violences. We had that earlier, right, at the end of that first section. Here's a stanza. There's a ghazal much like this. We didn't read it, but it's on this topic, where Francis will talk about the God-man's face and the parts of his face and getting lost in his face. This is kind of the face of the God-man is like emblematic of the entire creation. How beautiful you are. What a dreaming in the dawn is your brow, right? It's your eyebrow. What oceans of love are your eyes? What music of our new singing is in your throat? Our new singing to God as we waken to him. What a proud new architecture is in your hands. Why would his hands have anything to do with architecture? That's what you make with, yeah. So his hands have their own architecture, and the new architecture will come out of them through the work that are created through his hands. How perfectly shaped are your feet for our beyond journeying. This is the universal man, the Insan el-Kamil. You are the song of all singers who have ever sung. You are the tenderness of lovers of all time. The line of your mouth is the direction of our journey. I suppose in a literal way, he's smiling, it's a positive journey. He's frowning, his disapproval is there. One way of reading that, right? The curve of your cheek is the contour of our containment. In your fingers is the cunning of all the works we shall make. In your eyes, the love of all our loving. So in his form and in especially his face is our entire universe of love. There's a ghazal that's very much like this, one of the ones we looked at. And coming to so the whole thing is just glorious praise of the God-man. And here's how it ends, and then we'll break. Okay, waited the eternity of the precise moment, which was our destroying and renewal, and the again path for our stubborn feet. How the glory of your brow is the light of our safe journeying. The love of your eyes is the mirror of our revealment. Remember, he keeps talking about the beloved as the mirror in which is revealed your higher self. How glorious you are as man, how helpless is God. So helpless that you could not hide your godhood even behind the walls of your pain. How very man you are, how absolutely God. So that's how this ends. So it begins in a very dark note and ends in a very bright, glorious one. What's that? Yeah, the word at world's end. That's the entire book. They had some copies there. I didn't see them this morning. Maybe they've been sold out. It's not that long a poem. It's quite short and readable. So this afternoon we'll jump into Stay with God, and I'll just look at some different things in it. And I think Stay with God is Francis's greatest masterpiece. I think all would agree with that. So we'll just look at certain things from it. Okay, so Jai Baba.